Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our workshop. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm normally loud. You'll find that I don't need a microphone at times. This is my first night in the hot seat, so please be sparingly nice to me. For this, it's a comeback to a memory. I started my grammar school journey in this very building at Duggan School. I still have visions of Mrs. Cipriano, my kindergarten teacher, and Mrs. Saki, my first grade teacher. Then after that, everything was a blur, as it is right now. My name is Chuck Pagano. I'm the new incoming president, so welcome to this workshop. We're going to start off with a silent prayer, and then we're going to be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And I believe we have some special guests that are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. As normal in our workshops, we start off with the representative of the school to give us a summary and an update on what's going on. So please welcome to Dr. Patricia Forgiu, the principal.
Welcome, board members. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge my staff that's here this evening.
Surely.
So all of my Duggan staff, please stand. I'm going to brag, and I'll tell you I have the best staff in the whole city of Waterbury. So for this evening, we decided that we were going to do a presentation called Foundations, which is a phonics program that we have for children in kindergarten through third grade. So today we brought our third graders and our third grade teachers, and we're going to show you what we do in school during ELA period. So can all my third graders and my teachers please come up on the stage? So while they're getting ready, I'm going to tell you a little bit of background about Foundations. It provides students in kindergarten through third grade classrooms with a systematic approach to teaching the fundamental skills of reading, spelling, emphasizing phonemic awareness, phonics, high-frequency words, fluency, vocabulary, and handwriting. So encompass a lot of the ELA skills. This program focuses on student development by differentiating instruction and actively engaging the students in their learning. So today I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Gaudiosi and Ms. Diorio, our two third grade teachers, and they're going to give you a snapshot of what a Foundations program looks like.
Okay, so I hope that you can hear me because I'm not going to use a microphone. I'm going to speak as I do in the classroom. And neither are they, so good luck. So today we're going to do a Foundations lesson, and we're going to start with our drill sound warm-up, and then we're going to do a word talk on our 111, so it's a review on our 111. Okay, guys? All right. Let's see. Let me take a stick and see who can do. Let's have Jayana. Jayana, you want to come and do our drill sound warm-up for us? She's taking baby Apple, who comes with our program.
Wash off. A squash off. E-N-N. E-P-T. I-H-N. I-Pine-I. O-Octopus-I. O-Home-O. O-Home-O. U-Up-Up. U-Up-Up. You-Mew-You. You-Mew-You. You-Roo-Oo. You-Roo-Oo.
Nice job. Give her 2 claps. Excellent. Okay. So this program starts in pre-K and stops in third grade. We as third grade teachers love this program because it's a great foundation for them to start reading. So we don't get a lot of questions like how do you spell from these lessons. So they're great lessons. So we're going to start our 111 review. Who can tell me what a 111 word is? Lanaya. One syllable. One consonant.
A vowel.
One consonant following a.
Vowel?
Are we in agreement? Yes. It's a word that has one vowel, one syllable, and one consonant following the syllable. So watch this. I'm going to put two words up here. Can you guys tap this word out as I put it down? Tap. Nice job. Is back a 111 word? Oh, I have some no's and some yeses. You think it's a 111 word, Faith? Tell me why it's a 111 word. Never mind. Tell me why never mind. The CK is how many consonants after the vowel? Two. That's right. So can you guys sound it out as I put it back? What can you tell me about this CK? Anybody? Bella.
The CK is glued together and makes one sound.
And do you remember what this is called? You got it. Go
A
ahead.
diagram.
Give her two claps. Nice job. All right, I'm going to show you another word. Ready? Sound it out. Tap it out. Is this a 111 word? Yes, we're all in agreement. David, why is it a 111 word?
Because there's one consonant, one vowel, and one consonant following the vowel.
Okay, he said because there's one consonant, one vowel, and one consonant following the vowel. Are we in agreement? Okay, what can we change about that? Ivana, what is the one thing he's missing?
So one syllable.
Yes, it's one syllable. Do you remember that, David? Okay, so what's a 111 word? It has one,
One syllable.
one,
Vowel.
and one.
Consonant following the vowel.
He said one syllable, one vowel, one consonant following the vowel. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Are we in agreement this is a 111 word? Awesome job. Let's sound it out one more time. All right. Nice job. Now we're going to add some suffixes to our 111 word. All right? And there's certain rules we have to follow, right?
Yes.
So tell me about ER and ING. What kind of suffixes are those? Trace?
Vowel suffix.
Why? He said vowel suffixes. Are we in agreement? Why are they vowel suffixes?
Because they have a vowel for the first letter.
Very good. The first letter is a vowel. Give him two claps. How about this S? What kind of suffix is this? Alani.
That's a consonant.
Excellent job. Are we in agreement?
Yeah.
Give her two claps. All right, so I want to add this consonant suffix to the word shuts. Who thinks they could come up and do that for me? You ready, Gianna?
Yeah.
All right, so I want you to make the word shuts. Let's tap that out. Shuts. Right. Is she correct? Did she spell it right?
Yes.
Yes, we're in agreement. What can somebody tell me? Thank you, honey. Nice job. Give her two claps. What can somebody tell me about when we add a consonant suffix to a 111 word? What's the rule? Belle.
That you don't.
You don't. Jason wants to help you. You don't what? We're not talking about these. We're talking about this. You don't what?
The S is
Yes, it is. It's a consonant suffix. Great job. We don't what?
You don't add another T.
Right. We just add the consonant suffix, right? All right. But the rule changes when we want to add a vowel suffix. We want to add a vowel suffix. So I want to change this word shut to shutting. He was shutting the door when he slammed his finger in it. What are we going to do to the word shut to add the ing, the vowel suffix? Oh, this is hard. This is hard. David, do you know what we're going to do? Do you need somebody to remind you? Because you do know. Go ahead, phone a friend. Who? Lanaya. Can you come up here and can you change that word shut to shutting? Nice job. You know what to do now,
yeah.
right? Oh, yeah.
Yes, then put the ing.
Now you got it. You remembered. That's right. So, are you in agreement?
Yeah.
Good job. Why did you add that T, darling?
Because when it's a suffix,
When it's a,
one long word, you double the T. You double like
the constant,
The
the T in this case, before you add a,
vowel suffix.
good. Let's do one more thing. I need someone to come up here and I need you to mark this word for me. Gianna, come on up. Marking the word helps them a lot with figuring out what the word is. If they're reading and they don't know, we go ahead and mark the word for them and then they're able to sound it out immediately. Listen to the word, shut-ing. So only one syllable. Do you want to phone a friend? Trace. Trace, can you explain to her what you're doing so she remembers? So she scooped shut. And you are doing what? Starring the bonus letter. So we call that a bonus letter. Circling the suffix, and you tell me what kind of syllable that is? What kind? You put a C there, I don't know what that means, or they don't know what that means. It means it's a closed syllable, and go ahead and mark your vowel. Nice job. Can we give them a round of applause? So that's basically that in a nutshell.
Thank you.
There's usually 2 more activities that go along with it, but it's a great program. We love it.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for the teachers, the reading teachers up there, or any of the children?
Well, who actually designed the curriculum? Was that done in-house, or was that done from outside sources?
Julie, you want to answer that?
This is an outside source.
Okay. And how's it going?
Great. We've been doing it for 5 years now.
Oh, cool.
It's going really well.
Great.
We love it.
Any of my colleagues have any questions? Thank you very much. Oops. Juanita Hernandez?
Can we have the kids introduce themselves for us?
Oh,
Sure.
I want to hear who you are.
Yeah.
You're famous. Go ahead. All right, go ahead. What's your name? Jason? And you're in my class. And what's your name? Isabella. And here we have Gianna and Gianna's sister, and Trace, and Diana, and Ivana, Lanaya, and Faith. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We would like to end our presentation by doing the Duggan School pledge for you.
Surely.
Okay. All right, boys and girls. I pledge to be a Duggan School dragon.
I pledge to be a Duggan School dragon.
And as a Duggan School dragon.
And as a Duggan School dragon,
I promise to do my best.
to do my best.
Respect myself and others.
Respect myself and others.
Always be polite.
Always be polite.
Give a helping hand.
Give a helping hand.
Obey all school rules.
Obey all school rules.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Stay positive.
Stay positive.
Because
Because
I am
I am
a Duggan School dragon.
a Duggan School dragon.
Thank you very much.
So that concludes our presentation.
Wonderful.
All right?
We never had the pledge when I came here as a child.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is public speaking. Do you have any? That's okay. None? Okay, great. Before we start off with we have no public speaking tonight, so we're going to move on to the next agenda item, but there are two messages I'd like to convey. I'd like to welcome our student representative, Mateo Macias. Is that who it is?
Sorry, I was talking to him, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Van Stone. Mateo, right?
Yes.
Welcome. Glad you're here. And we are in the audience of a couple of very important people from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. Commissioner Ann Sweeney and Commissioner Charles Stango have both been elevated to the title of Master Board of Education member. Bravo. Congratulations. You won't get a pay raise. C'est la vie. That's part of it. But congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
And I will go through this on the next meeting, so it gets into the minutes also. Attorney Tara Shaw, you're next up on for the rehash of the WTA contract reopener. Oh, Your Honor, good to see you. Not bad yourself.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me here tonight. We're here. We're here to discuss the proposed teacher's contract, and Mr. Clark and I sat in on the negotiations, led the Board of Education's team in negotiating the upcoming contract. I have provided a copy of the proposed agreement as well as a summary. I hope you've all had an opportunity to look at that. In essence, we're just going to run through the summary. If you have questions, please interrupt, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. So the duration of this contract, this was technically a reopener. We had an arbitration award last year that required us to open up negotiations again for the purpose of negotiating wages and wages and insurance. And during the course of these negotiations, we agreed to extend the contract for an additional year. So this contract will ultimately be a 4-year agreement, with this current year being the first year. In addition, I don't know, if you'd like to speak to the wage scale?
Yeah, as we had the award last year, we spent this last year really trying to figure out what our next steps would be in the reopener. In that process, we pursued sort of a two-pronged strategy. One was sort of off-the-record work, and then the on-the-record technical work in negotiations. And through the off-the-record, we recognized that to meet the goals outlined by the mayor and the superintendent and from this board of trying to have a more cost-effective salary schedule, that we really needed to do work on that. And we met with the union, we traded some ideas, got some sense from them as to what their priorities were. And as we did that, we understood, looking at the past history, that the former salary scale was just mathematically difficult to work with. The union had a goal to have step movement, but step movement itself would cost around 4%. And that was really one of the big issues of last time in the arbitration, and so something we really wanted to spend some time on. So we did essentially recreate the scale. And we, in those off-the-record talks, kind of kicked around some ideas, couldn't get to any final resolution, so it did then kick into the technical negotiation strategy and process, and ultimately was a mediation as well. So during the mediation process, we really worked closely with the mediator and the unions, and ultimately came up with the salary scale. So in the first year, it has a process where you basically are moving from where they are in the existing reality into the new scale. So there's a financial element associated with that. We're also attacking one of the main goals of the superintendent and the mayor was a competitive starting level. Working with Tara, we understood that other districts and comparable districts, that was a place where we weren't as competitive as you'd like to be. As the schedule grows up, we were a little bit better, but at the bottom was tougher. So that first transition over to the new scale, we also do essentially an equity adjustment and are raising the bar in those starting steps. So we do that essentially collapsing all at once. So then once we're in that schedule, the mathematical nature of that becomes kind of more cost effective to allow for step movement. In other words, the move from one step to the next over the years. So you jump into the new scale, we actually can do step movement right in that first year or this next June 20. And then the 2 years following that, because the scale itself became a bit more cost effective, we were able to work within the means we had and the goals we have established to come up with being able to do those step movements in those other years. Because we built some back end of the scale, essentially there's a place for them to go. So even the top step people are moving also, and we're dropping steps off the bottom as we go, so that also is bringing up the starting salary over those years. So all in, when you do that, as Tara outlines in the memo, we've given you the percentage increases and the total salary impact, and that ends up being very competitive and common with the settlements that have been reached across the city. And if you look at the state, some CABE numbers that are out there in the settlements already this year, you know, it's in that ballpark. So we felt as though we were hitting on the goal of being competitive, but also hitting on the goal of being cost effective. The other piece was the medical piece, and Tara and I working closely with Mike LeBlanc and the mayor's office, understanding what the city's medical plans were. We had that as a big element as well, and pushed through in that mediation process to make sure there was adjustments in both plan design and some slight adjustments in the rates associated with the high deductible plan and cost sharing as the contract goes through. So there's some cost effectiveness there too, without compromising some of the plan design elements and the benefits that the union members expect. So we also want to thank the union. I mean, it's never easy to have a settlement. In some cases, it's easier to fight and go through the process, but the committee that Kevin and Jim and their team put together really did, and both those on the record and off the record discussions were open to thinking outside the box and working with us, and we learned that we needed to understand some of their issues as well and factor those in. So I think everyone really came to the table with good faith. And I think we came out with something that hits the goals that both sides had within the financial ability that we have to be creative on the goals we wanted to reach.
Is it considered a win-win scenario on both ends of the equation?
We believe it was. I don't want
Okay.
to speak for the union, but I think they ratified the settlement, so we believe it was a win-win for both sides.
Mr. Regan?
Just being involved in the way the process went this time, and obviously echoing what Will Clark has said, it was difficult negotiations, but at the end of the day, both sides got to a point where we could certainly agree on the numbers, as difficult as that might have been. So win-win, win-lose, lose-lose, I'll leave that up for the critics, but certainly our membership did come out in force to ratify it.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Any of my colleagues have any, or Mr. Mayor, do you have any comments you want to?
No.
Any colleagues have any questions? Things? Ann? Commissioner Sweeney?
Tara, well, I'm not sure who could answer this, but we started out with 12 steps. And by the end of all of this, the 4 years, we'll be at 18, I think I saw. So even though we collapsed those top ones, we added at the bottom, at the high end. So how does that relate in terms to the number of steps in other districts? Because when we were at 12, there was comments that there were too many steps. So now we seem like we've broadened the steps. And I understand the reasoning behind everything that was done, but I just having trouble wrapping my head around that one.
I believe there are going to be 19 at the end. And it is certainly, I think, more than a number of comparator districts. But a lot of the urban districts have continued to expand their scales as well. Again, I think to echo what Will said a few minutes ago, the reason this was done is because step movement on a regular basis was simply unaffordable. And I think you've been here a long time, and you know that certainly step movement wasn't given in every contract year.
Yeah, and I would just say that the total number is not too far off. New Haven, other larger districts are in that 17 to 19 level, and those ebb and flow as they go up and down different years. The other thing to know is that many other contracts do have what you might call master steps or off-step grids where the max go after the scale ends. So in many cases, it's a practical matter. New Haven is a good example. They have other steps beyond, so there's a place to go. So in some respects, as we recreated this, we were able to accommodate for step movement at the top, which is always a battle and an issue. You look at, if you assume step movement and you cost that out, you still have a good chunk of your membership that's at the top, and in that scenario, they get nothing right there. So then you're debating a GWI, or do we add a step, and those sorts of things. So by kind of taking a step back and looking at the scale, looking at the census, understanding we had some bubbles, and I was educated to how those bubbles came to be, going all the way back to the state takeover and where longevity went and how that got adjusted. So, you know, that's important history to understand, and certainly some expectations that some of the membership, I think, have as they go through. But ultimately, I think what this gets us is something that allows for the opportunity for step movement in a more cost-effective way. It can't guarantee the future and where the state finances and so forth will go, but this gives us a little bit of a more digestible pattern without sort of ups and downs and bubbles, more smooth, as we like to call it, throughout. So as the census continues to grow, there's not one year that might be dramatically different than another based upon where the census is going. So it's more cost effective, but also I think over time, if we continue along the theory of the pattern and bring up the bottom, you could shrink it a bit as well. So it gives us some more opportunity, I think, in future negotiations.
If I can just add, I think both sides realized that the 12-step schedule was just never going to be sustainable and be a reality, right? Because if you look at many of our teachers, it took me 21 years to get to step 12, right? So that's really, that was a 21-step schedule for me. So the whole idea was to be realistic about step increases, right? And in the old step schedule, it just was not realistic to think that we could advance people step after step after step with those high incremental costs. So there was acknowledgement, really just fine acknowledgement on both sides to say, okay, if we're going to really realistically talk about step advancement, then we have to realistically talk about the cost of those steps. And the only way to do that was to expand the schedule. And I will add that you know, there are many other districts with step schedules of 19, some even 20 or 21. So.
And one other question. Do we now, because we're dropping the lower steps, the 1, 2, and 3 over the life of the contract, do we renumber from there, or does our lowest step become step number 4, and how does that relate to the other districts? And when people come in, where do we put them?
The hardest part of the negotiation was how to number the scale. You know, I've been in scenarios where that became too difficult, so we went from numbers to letters and back again. So there is a secret chart and a map we have of how you navigate from one to the other. But, you know, I think it's something that can be renumbered as time goes by. But to Kevin's point, there is a certain mental aspect to, I was at 4, I want to be at 5. If you renumber me back to 1, I feel like I lost 3 years. So a lot of times you just defer that point and move on up and drop those steps and just leave the numbers the same. But I mean, that's how we handled it this time around, and that was actually a point of discussion in early morning hours, resolving that. How we address it in the next contract may be another way. But I think it is trying to accommodate, to Kevin's point, where people see where they are, where they're going, how they're going to move through a schedule. If you're just dropping steps and adding, you're kind of staying where you're at. So being able to leave the numbers allows you to move.
And Commissioner Sweeney, if you look in the appendix, you can actually see that in the 4th year of the agreement, entry level is step 4, and the top step is step 22. So you can see that we've done that. We just sort of zeroed out the initial 3 steps.
Okay.
Commissioner Stango, I believe you had a question?
Yes, thank you. With the new contract starting, salary rise starting next year, and we see a substantial increase at the starting for a brand-new teacher starting, is there ever a scenario where the teacher that we hire this year at the old rate gets passed by the teacher next year because they're making so much more to start? No, good.
The tide raises all boats.
Everyone's raising up.
Right. So
Okay.
those folks are going to move up. So the new person would be coming in at a place where perhaps someone was moving up to,
Yeah,
but the floor is going to rise for all of them.
okay.
As a practical matter, and this is one of the other factors, that, to Kevin's point, we really studied the census, see where people are. In this particular group, because the contract does have the ability in shortage areas, and you have some authority up to step 6 to make hires, we don't have all of our new hires at step 1. So there's a little bit of variance already. So that, and it proved to be that cost of making that adjustment, was not as overbearing, and it became possible to do that as well as collapsing those BA lanes, which was an important element of raising that boat up, if you will, as well. So the way the census kind of worked, it allowed us to be a little more aggressive there without having a large cost impact on that would have limited our ability to do other things.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much for the update, and congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
And we'll be keeping our eyes and ears going forward very close to the ground, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is from Dr. Epperson on a request for approval of college facility request with Naugatuck Valley Community College. And while she's getting set up on the stage, I would like to recognize our new commissioner, Mr. Rocco Orso. Very able individual and a very good guy to work with. So thanks for being here, Rocco.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Also, for me, everything's full circle because I graduated from this school a few years ago.
2 years ago.
That's why we
I'm
had
glad
the
to be
meeting
here.
here. for
That's
you
why I had
and
the
Sean.
meeting here.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Epperson, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir, President. Good evening, Commissioners. I came before you earlier to have the request to approve the contract for the reservation agreement between ourselves and Naugatuck Valley Community College. We're coming back because Naugatuck at the time was not able to lock us in for the spring dates. So we were approved for the winter, for this fall, but we're asking now for approval for the spring. We're probably going to have to come back again because they don't want to lock us in too far ahead of time because they want to reserve the rights for their faculty to use the facilities. So we've been approved for the fall, for the spring dates, which would get us through May, and then we're probably going to come back to ask for approval. However, I'm asking if you would just approve the dates, and then when they approve them, we can go on, and we don't have to come back and then wait another month for the Board of Aldermen to approve it. So at this time, we are asking that you approve the agreement that we can use the facilities for our professional development for leadership.
We got it.
Thank you.
Who are you dealing with up there primarily?
My secretary has been working with it, but it's the gentleman who's over Founders Hall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're really good. It's just we're asking for a lot of dates.
It's a different world up there.
It is.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the District Parent Engagement Report by Mary Ann. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. Mr. Clark is going to be joining me. Carrie's passing out a couple of little additional items, which would be the Welcome Center numbers that we've been collecting for phone calls, meetings, and situation forms, those kind of things that I've been tracking since August when I arrived. And then the school governance report that I do each year that I thought might be of interest to you. So we're very happy tonight to give you an update on parent engagement for the district. So this year, the Waterbury Public Schools came to realize a vision of Dr. Ruffin and this Board of Education to locate a one-stop for families in order to register their children, to get valuable information and resources, and also have transportation and all this information in one location. And it would be called the Waterbury Public Schools Welcome Center. There's a few pictures there letting you know what it looks like. There's a picture there of myself and a little student actually in the room, and the parent gave permission so that picture could be taken. It's a very friendly, welcoming place. If you come now, we're not with sunflowers anymore. We have snowflakes hanging, so we're seasonal, whenever the theme of the time is. What's great about this is it's centrally located at 185 South Main Street. 1 Jefferson does not come up in your GPS, just so you know. 185 South Main Street does. And it helps parents be fully engaged in their children's education, because as they're registering them, we're able to give them resources, information, and soon to come, we're hoping to be able to do online registration and also provide student records, and that, of course, will be coming in 2020. We want to fully be able to give the entire mission of the Waterbury Public Schools, which is helping our students reach their fullest potential. The McKinney-Vento person is also in our office, so if we realize at that moment that a family is in transition, we're able to get those support services right on the spot and get those parents the transportation and the resources that they need. It's a full-service shop. And now that Mr. Hunter is with us, if there is a transportation issue, we don't have to call him, we just walk right down the hall. So it's one hallway and we're all together. And it's nice because we can meet and talk with each other instead of being on the phone, we're actually in person. And I'm not on the 3rd floor and someone else is on the 1st floor, we're all together there. It's very family friendly. There's a reception area in the front, triage, parents come in, we find out what the needs are, and then we try and support whatever those needs are. There will be computers coming for the online registration, and that will be a kiosk system. And there will be training, and hopefully all the staff will be able to support the needs of the parents coming in. There is a conference room that can be used for small trainings, nothing large. Right now, we're also using that conference room for the District Parent Advisory Council. We hold our executive board meetings there. And in the basement, there's a wonderful training room that's been used by the district for some wonderful trainings for leadership, and it's a wonderful space to also be used. There's ELL testing for our limited English families on the spot to locate what the services are needed for our families as they come in. So we are really trying to be that one-stop location. There are some pictures showing you that right now we are still under construction, but that construction is moving forward to bring those records over to our location. But these pictures show you what is available right now. We are a partnership district. We work with Bridge to Success and all the partnerships that work with the Waterbury Public Schools. And as parents come in and we find out what the needs are, we try and match those resources. I recently had a visit from Commissioner Brown and one of our partnerships. And when we find out what those needs are, we try and match them. And we would love to have any of you come and visit us over at 185 South Main. I have a list here of our parent liaisons, our principals. The parent liaisons are that link. There is one little missing at the bottom. We have a will be parent liaison now who's on board, along with Mr. Bagnall and Dr. Baker, and she's on board and we're training her as well. We brought on 4 new parent liaisons in the last month, and there'll be a new parent liaison, I just found out today, at Waterbury Arts Magnet School, so we're brought on 5 in a month. The parent liaisons are that critical link to our schools and our families. I couldn't do my job without them, and I know our principals couldn't do their jobs with the families without them. So we rely on them greatly to support our families. Our parent liaisons do community meetings. The community meeting is a chance to go out into the community and reach out to our families. Some families feel a little more comfortable out in the community. We, of course, want them in our schools, but sometimes when we go out into the community, it does bridge that gap. And those are hosted every year in a variety of locations. Some schools work alone, but most work collaboratively with our community partners and getting that information out to them. We always try and get those in the superintendent's bulletin so that you're aware of the times, the locations, and a lot of the times are flexible. We try and get them at different times of the day in the year so that they don't all fall together. And so I know they may not fall with your schedule, but we try and get them at times when parents would be most apt to come. Food, transportation, and great presentations are available. For our schools and families, there's so many things. There's parents and family nights, there's socials. Our parent-teacher conferences are coming up on December 11th and 18th. They're split between elementary, middle, and high school to allow parents to always attend for their children, no matter what their age group. There's volunteer activities, and we have a new volunteer policy in the Waterbury Public Schools. I've trained our parent liaisons on that volunteer policy so they know how to implement it in our schools. Our schools are really trying to get a PTA, a PTO, a PTSA, that's students in the high school, or a PTSA or a PTSO in the high schools. There's concerts, plays, art shows, a variety of things going on in our schools. We have athletics, which is a great draw for our students. We have a district-wide calendar, and we have a great communications person who's come on board to make sure that we know what's going on in our schools. And I mentioned our District Parent Advisory Council. We have a new executive board that just came on and is really trying to reach out to our parents. And I'm talking about school governance councils. You know that the information I'm sharing with you, that's our report from last year. And it's just for you, something to know. We do a yearly report. We have 28 school governance councils where our administration, teachers, parents, and community members work together for student achievement for our students. We hope to have 7 parents, that's our goal. 5 teachers, 2 students on the high school level, a principal or designee, and those 2 high school students are great on the high school level with those community members. This is a list of all of our school governance councils, and we added the 9 building schools so that we have a school governance council in every school, but not in our programmatic schools. Because it would be very difficult for them to fill these amount positions in a programmatic school. Coming in 2020, we're hoping to have a formal ribbon cutting at the Welcome Center, our online registration that I mentioned to you. We're hoping to have coordinated district, school, and level resource mapping, enhanced initiative and recruitment so that we can share and replicate what's a successful program. One of the things that's been very successful is our Project Love, that our parent liaisons have worked with our homeless families. And recently, they were awarded the Shelter Elf Award from the Salvation Army for the great work they have done with our homeless families. And we want to celebrate these best practices and the successes of our schools, our parents, and our partner organizations. And finally, this is my contact information. You know where I am, you know where I'm located, and we would love to have you visit us at any time and see the wonderful support services. And I want to thank Dr. Ruffin and all of you for allowing the Welcome Center to come to fruition. And if you have any questions, we're open to questions.
Any questions?
Rocco?
Commissioner Rosso?
Mary Ann, was this also the, I know it was always called the intake center.
It was the intake
Okay,
center,
okay.
yes, formerly the intake center. But I think Dr. Ruffin wanted to get away from that stigma of how we label that and.
This is
Sure.
much better.
Yes.
We're not a penitentiary.
I
Yes.
think as one of the things we started with is that Dr. Ruffin looked at that. We took in intake and what was then FACE, and we had a number of meetings, and what we realized was there's lots of great things going on. In some cases, not particularly known or communicated or standardized. So by bringing the things together, as we brainstormed and brought a whole bunch of people around the table with Dr. Ruffin's leadership and guidance to get all those ideas out on the table. So this is bringing Mary Ann together with Charlotte, together with Jeff and Janet soon with the records. It's going to be a sort of that one-stop shopping for a lot of parent issues. Adding the IT element, which with Will and his team are working on. There's training next week for the staff over there, and then we'll get the parent liaisons trained so we could do some online registration so the parents don't have to sit there all day. They can register online, they can do it at home, do it from their phone. We plan to set up some locations across the city and labs and so forth with the parent liaisons. Maybe we can give them a hand doing that, and that way it'll streamline that operation a little bit. Those records will be into Power School right through that registration portal, and then that will make it easier for us to track the data, for Charlotte to do her placements and so forth, Jeff to do the bus routes, et cetera. So once we sort of had all those resources on the table and realized you could put those together, make it a more welcoming place. We get the health department upstairs, other partners, WIC, et cetera. So this was sort of phase one, and now we'll add on with the technology. We'll look to work with Sujatha now that she's on board to try to make some of these things more available online. We look to, in the future, update the website, which may make some of these things easier to navigate and get to. And we want to celebrate all of our schools, get that information out there so folks know the opportunities at each school when they think about registering or transferring and so forth. So this will grow, and certainly Mary Ann's leadership, Charlotte's leadership, Jeff's over there has made it very, very smooth. They've certainly taught us a lot about what we need to do and the elements we have to put into this. And we keep learning and keep listening, and as things come up, we adjust, we revise. So we're really looking forward to this next registration process as the next big step, and then we're just going to keep building from there.
Thank you. Commissioner Harvey, you had
Thank you.
questions?
Yes. A few questions here. Hi, Mary Ann. How are you?
Hi, great, thank you.
Okay. I'm looking at the partner list.
Yes, I believe
And
that's probably an out, I think it's 93 now.
Okay. I don't see the NAACP.
Okay,
I don't see the WOW NRZ.
okay. Do you have an updated one?
Do I have an updated?
An updated list?
I'm looking at what was provided.
Okay.
Okay.
That was probably from an old PowerPoint that I had that I pulled it. Yeah. Do you have an updated list from Bridge to Success, or I took this from a,
Yeah, I was just looking at
I
what
took
was
this from their
provided.
last report.
Okay.
I don't think they've
Yeah.
published a new one. I took this from their last report card.
Got it. All right. Well, I just want to make sure because I know I've asked for that before.
Mhm.
and
I
thought
pulled
that
this from
everything-
their last report
All right.
card.
So can you provide me with a
Yeah,
new-
if
just-
I can get it from them, if they can give me their list. I
So
took
is
it
that
from their
simply
last
get-
report card.
All right, so that's simply getting in touch with Althea? and-
Yes, yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, what are our goals in terms of parent engagement?
Parent engagement goals are, of course, to engage every family where they are.
Okay.
That's why we're going out into the community, that's why we're working with DPAC, that's why we're doing PTO, that's why we're doing school governance. Wherever the parents are, we're trying to find them in their languages, doing every language, for our flyers, wherever. And then, of course, we have to do, on their phones, iris alerts, however we can reach them.
Okay, so do we set with the parent liaisons, are we setting goals with them in terms of parent engagement individually with the schools or district-wide? Do we have that? Are we doing that?
They do their monthly reports. They report. I know they are doing a lot with attendance. I know that has been given to the parent liaisons in addition to their normal activities. They've been given a lot to do with attendance now at the schools.
Okay. There was a meeting, it was our advisory committee meeting, and we had a parent that was there because we invited our NAACP Youth Council to join us for the meeting. And the parent said, I guess she changed one school, went to another because her kids, because she moved.
Mm-hmm.
And she stated that, and in fact, they have to make sure I get her name so that we kind of look at this. She said that she noticed a difference in communication, sharing at one school as opposed to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that communication is always something that we have to work on, but when we look at it, it should be pretty much the same. She said she was informed at one school, and another school she wasn't as informed.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentioned that perhaps the parent liaison maybe didn't share as much at one school as opposed to the other. So, I hope that one of our goals is to always improve communication with our parents.
Of course.
That's something that we have to constantly look
Mhm.
at. I'm going to get this parent's name because it was really constructive feedback that we need
Right.
in order, so that we can improve in that
Absolutely.
that regard. So I will get that parent's
Okay.
name, and 'cause I'm
Perfect.
sure she's willing to
All right,
to share
perfect.
that.
And Commissioner, the point's well
Yes.
taken. We recognize that as a growth area, as part of that
Mm.
coming soon slide. Exactly that point. We want to
Yes.
replicate and share the successes and try to build off of those.
Right,
Use
right.
our principals that are doing a good job, use our parent liaisons that are doing a good
Good job. Mhm.
Yes.
Replicate that, support, mentor, and really updating that communication through the website, through how we can leverage technology, and updating everybody on those things as we go, that we want to really build that. Right now, Dr. Ruffin's been harping on us to upgrade the website. That's a work in progress that
Yes.
that we're going out to bid on and so forth. We have a committee working on that. And there's an area where the current website, has the opportunity for each school to have their, page and so forth. As you know, some are better than others. We want to really standardize that. Again, now we have Sujata in place. Let's put some basics in there that everyone should hit those basic marks, and then we'll build from there. So that information that parents have, they're not just coming to, say, the Welcome Center thinking, I want to register for this school and none other. You should understand the resources that are available, whether it's an after-school program, language program,
Right, right.
transportation, whatever, at the various schools, so you can think of them all as potential destinations for your child. So we want to really enhance that and definitely improve that communication, get those good messages out there.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
All
Any
right,
other
last-
questions?
Lastly, DPAC, do we have a meeting scheduled?
There was just a meeting on the 20th of November, and it was at Reed School
Okay.
with regard to, and the presentation was on the Family Resource Center.
Okay.
We just had an executive meeting today, and there will be an updated calendar coming out.
Oh, they're pretty
There-
soon, okay.
Yeah, there will be, right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
And we'll
Any
make
other-
sure that everyone gets one.
Any
Great,
other
thank you.
questions from any?
I just want to mention that what an outstanding job Mary Ann and the staff there has done with coordinating early childhood. They have a great partnership with the Office of Early Childhood, and I do co-chair the School Readiness Council, and when we talked yesterday, out of 1,300 slots available, we're only down 4. That's an amazing accomplishment. We've come a long way, and it's because of these collaborations. So thank you so much for
You're welcome.
that continued collaboration.
Anything that this board can do for you?
I think the support has been fantastic, and the fact that we were able to move from last spring as an idea, and by the first week of August, to be in a building with little or no renovation,
Well,
right?
when the need arises, yell. We're here for you.
Okay, thank you.
And my last question is there parking at 185 South Main?
Well,
The challenge question.
limited,
The short answer is yes.
Mhm.
The longer answer is how much?
and
So make a
don't park in a
reservation and come down.
restricted pot, you'll get a ticket.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Both of you, thanks.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Zuda, and as he's coming up to home plate, I would like to personally thank Liz Brown for her tenure as our past president. She taught me an awful lot while I'm sitting on that side of the equation. If I can do just half as good as what you did, I'd be amazed. I'll screw it up, but thank you for leading the way.
It's a great team.
Mr. Zuda. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Dr. Ruffin. I respectfully request your approval of the 2020-2021 and the 2021-2022 school calendars. The calendars were reviewed by WTA, SAW, Dr. Ruffin, and her cabinet. Some notes on the calendar, you'll notice that light green are half professional days, and we have about 7 of those. Light blues are full professional days, and the light pink are holidays and recess days. On the 2020-2021 school calendar, the first day of school is August 24th. The winter recess is December 24th through January 1st. The spring recess is April 19th to the 23rd. June 8th is the last scheduled school day. That's a total of 181 school days. On the 21-22 school calendar, the first day of school is August 23rd. Winter recess is December 24th to Friday, December 31st. The spring recess is April 15th to the 22nd. June 6th is the scheduled last day of school for the 2022 school year, and a total of 181 days. We average about 6 snow days a year, so we have plenty of room for makeup days, ending that early. And we reviewed the surrounding towns' calendars. We looked at Wolcott, Region 15, Meriden, and Naugatuck. Region 16 and Watertown, those are all our close and surrounding towns around Waterbury. Wolcott, Region 15, Meriden, and Naugatuck all had 2021 calendars posted, but nothing past that. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on the calendar?
Commissioner Van Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
You know where I'm going to go?
Yep. I have the dates if you need them.
You do?
Yes.
Each year when we review the calendars, I always ask on behalf of the Muslim community who look for me to make sure their interests are looked at. You do have the start of Ramadan.
Right.
On both these calendars, right? However, my request, and I appreciate that, and just as a refresher, we made an agreement with that community to make sure we do not have any major events such as tests, field trips, etc. on those days. My next request that has come to me is also, especially Ramadan, that we have, Superintendent, an allowable space for students who are fasting. It's because that's a very important part of Ramadan.
Correct.
Is to fast. Other than the cafeteria, a space for them to go, not necessarily for prayer, but just to be outside the food element. And I think most of our principals make a good effort to do this, especially at the high school level. But I just want to make sure that we continue to make that space available to students that are fasting during this special holy day. I've made a mistake at the mosque to call it a holiday. I've been corrected to say holy day. That we make space available for those that are fasting. And I think it's simple, right? The library, the auditorium, etc. So I appreciate now that we always have those on the calendar, because you know I'm going to ask.
Yes, sir.
But that's this year's request, is that we just make a space available for those students who are choosing to do so. So thank you for having that on the calendar. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Stango?
Thank you. Just a question regarding the 2020, the 21-22 calendar in January, returning back to school from Christmas break. It's on January 3rd because the 1st is on a Saturday. Would January 3rd be when the holiday is celebrated for a federal holiday or a state holiday?
You're looking at which one? I'm sorry, sir. 2021?
It's yes, your second calendar.
The second calendar, okay. Yeah, we return to school on January 3rd, that Monday, correct?
Right.
The holidays, is a Friday. No, I'm sorry, January 1st is a Saturday, and is observed, right, it's observed on Friday.
Oh, it's
Observed on a Friday,
Saturday
right.
goes Friday.
Yeah, if it's Sunday, it's observed on Mondays, based on the new contract.
All right, good. And the other question I have is regarding both calendars on the full-day professional development days on a Friday. Do you have data about the attendance on those days for staff?
I do have data, but I don't have it off the top of my head, sir. I can make it available.
So I don't necessarily need the data, other than the fact that we have no issue on those days. It's working. The full day on a Friday PD seems to be working.
In other words, are people showing up to the PD? That's what he wants to know.
No, I understand the question, just, I don't have the data in front of me, so I can't answer.
No, but we
until I
know
get
it's
it.
working, or it wouldn't be
Right.
on the calendar then. And we're
Right,
all,
yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints, so when I was
Okay.
we met with WTA and saw, nobody brought it to my attention, so, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Van Stone?
As much as I trust that it's working, could you get us that data to see what Friday PDs look like from an attendance perspective?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Superintendent Ruffin would like to make a comment?
Yes, I do would like to make a comment about attendance. Attendance is still disproportionately low for professional development days, regardless of what day of the week it is, and it is higher on weekends. So the answer to your question is we have a large number of people that are out on professional development days, to the point that I'm really going to probably shake it up. I question how many professional development days we need to continue having if we continue to have that many absences.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Stone?
I would then ask the superintendent, do you want us to table this discussion till you have more time to look into it, or it wouldn't necessarily affect this calendar we're talking about?
I think that the calendar, as it has been well thought out with past practices, and I would recommend that the board approves them. But I do believe that we need to be strategic and perhaps even make that a topic of major awareness in the next 2 years, that if we are not going to get a return on investment for professional development, that we do revisit those days.
Okay.
I guess then, if I may, Mr. President, is there a need to, at next meeting, bless both of these, or can we simply bless next year's calendar and then wait for the results to come in before we worry about the following year?
I think even if you bless both of them next time, we could still revisit it the second year with your approval of both years.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yep. Any other questions?
I just want to say a comment. As far as the Hispanic community, I personally, myself and my family, we celebrate Three Kings, which we do reserve that day. I'm curious to see, we normally celebrate Christmas and Three Kings like that whole week, so just curious to see the absenteeism among students possibly for those days prior to after the New Year's. They're probably not gonna, they're probably either in the islands or even here, if they're celebrating. So just kind of want to throw that out there, so if we see a little increase of absenteeism between the third until, the Three Kings, it could possibly, especially between the Hispanics, since you guys do demographics, it is also because they're celebrating that holiday. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion points? Thank you, guys, very much. And Will, you are teed up for this next item, which is for endpoint protection between Waterbury and Presidio. What does this solution do?
I'll read through it, and then we can ask the questions.
Okay.
The Department of Education Computer Technology Center respectfully requests your approval of the above referenced contract in the amount of $214,479 for 5 years of advanced endpoint protection spread out over 3 payments of $71,493 between the City of Waterbury and Presidio. This contract was initiated under a request for proposal number 6400. There was 7 bidders for this project, Presidio Palo Alto Trap Solution being the best solution for the district. This contract will allow the Waterbury Public Schools to provide a solution that delivers on our business objectives in today's ever-changing threat landscape. The selected endpoint security platform works well with other security systems such as our Palo Alto Next Generation Firewall by seamlessly blocking known and unknown ransomware, malware, exploits, and viruses. Weekly service results, we average about 328,000 malware and drive-by requests that are intercepted, 1,750 command and control requests, and 60 phishing attempts. Benefits of the new solution, we call it the power of the community. With 60,000 customers, the software can quickly identify new malware, spyware, ransomware in the wild, and then quickly apply a patch to the firewall and endpoint devices via a management console. So this way we can swiftly mitigate and block threats. It'll provide visibility on who logged in and where they went. It'll tell us what files and processes were compromised, and it'll allow us to isolate devices from a management console so we can contain a compromised system. The solution will improve the endpoint security and enable the Waterbury Public Schools to safely utilize internet-based services and respond to changing business needs while improving security, resiliency, capacity without being cost prohibitive.
Is it hardware or software?
It's software.
Okay.
So
It's a service.
It's a software as a service, correct? Yes, sir.
Any questions? Commissioner Vanstone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you. I just want to understand, make sure I'm reading it right. So it's a 5-year contract totaling just about $209,000 broken over 3 payments.
Correct.
What's the schedule of the payments?
The schedule is $71,493 each year for 3 years.
So
it's a
we
5-year
front load
life.
the first 3 years?
Correct, right.
Okay.
Yep. It's about $5 an endpoint per year.
Okay.
So we have 8,000 licenses.
And what budget are we paying this out?
My operating budget for my department.
General operating
Yep.
budget. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions? How does the city of Waterbury handle this task? Do they use the same solution? Is there any economies
They're
of scale?
using currently right now McAfee, I believe. No, I'm sorry, they're using Norton. They're going to try to piggyback off of this contract rate because the pricing's so good.
Okay.
So I think they're paying about twice as much as we
So
are.
That should help the
Yeah.
economies of scale going forward?
It should, right, by leveraging ours. Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Sweeney.
Just a quick one, Will. The original we got said $208,480, and we got an update, it's $214,479. So what caused the
The
discrepancy?
6,000 increase was because we're paying over 3 years versus upfront. So there's a little charge for breaking up the payments over 3 years.
Okay. A little charge? More than a little.
They all do it.
They all, yeah.
Yeah, have any choice.
Rocco didn't negotiate that one.
All right, just one comment. I'm glad it did go off an RFP.
You did, yes, sir. It was Rocco's last RFP.
Any other questions,
Special.
comments? Thank you, everyone. The next item on tonight's agenda is Louise Brown's request for approval on the Public Education and Governmental Programming and Education Technology Investment Account. And Louise is not here tonight, but
No.
you two are filling in for her.
It will.
Beautiful. The floor is yours.
What a downgrade.
Thanks. We respectfully request your permission to apply for the above referenced grant. The Waterbury proposal will address the provisions of the wireless access and high-speed connectivity to the internet for all students in all schools. While the district has made ongoing technological infrastructure and hardware investments through grants and other funds, some technical issues preventing these and those investments to the greatest potential where so-called dead spots occur in the school buildings. Waterbury proposes to conduct a wireless survey and assessment in at least some of the schools. The survey will identify the areas with wireless coverage problems, and the assessment of what devices are routinely used inside the building will clarify how tablets, laptops, Chromebooks are used in the schools. Then 291 older wireless access points will be replaced with upgraded wireless access points to improve both wireless access and high-speed connectivity for students and teachers. The total of the grant application will be approximately $233,250 with no matching funds required.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Van Stone?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. I always love hearing no matching funds. Is there an end of life that we would have to take over? So I guess my question is, once the grant runs out and we have whatever we have, is there then a cost that the district would have to burden to continue it? Or the grant goes away, the technology goes away, and it's just we're on to the next thing?
So we would be buying wireless access points, so the only cost to the district would be replace them once they're end of life.
Okay.
So we could leave them up there, but what happens as technology changes, and it quickly does, you know, we have to continue to upgrade these devices, so.
But there's not a service contract
There's
out in
no
the
service
future that we'd
contract,
have to
no.
be on the hook for or
No,
anything like that?
no, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions?
At some point, I don't know if you have the information now, I think I'd like to know what is our capacity at this point in terms of our school district and access to Wi-Fi. So you don't know
Yeah.
that now, unless you know the answer.
I know the answer, so,
Oh, right, yeah.
So, as far as the foundation for our schools, we have 10 gig between each school, dark fiber, so all of our schools are connected back to 10 gig back to the district, and then we go out 10 gig out to the internet, which is plenty of bandwidth. We recently upgraded all the switches in all the schools, so they all can do 1 gig to the desktop. We have 860 wireless access points in the school. 583 are new, 291 are the ones that we would have to replace, and that's where this grant would come in and allow us to replace the older access points. So we have the newer, all with the new wireless AC, they call it, so we can push out more bandwidth out to the schools. We can avoid dead spots. Because what's happening right now is, as we added, I think we have 8,000 Chromebooks in the district right now. So they're all wireless, so they all connect to the network. And the wireless network was really put on as an add-on to complement the original network, but it's the primary network now. So we have to continue to improve and focus on that.
That was my sense. Thank you. I think we've come a long way.
We have, yes.
I remember when we never had 8,000 Chrome.
No, right. And that was a rapid development, so.
That was great.
Any other questions? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Guys.
Have a good night.
Next on the agenda tonight is Committee on Finance. Oh, I'm sorry, Juanita.
Can we please introduce our other
I was just about
student
to.
council?
Thank you.
He was going to do.
Is Shira Scott?
Yes.
Welcome.
Hello.
Glad you're here.
I am so sorry that I'm late.
No worries.
Happy to be here.
And you're from WAMS also?
Yes.
Well, welcome to Duggan.
Thank you.
Good
We're
to
going
see
to
you.
dock your pay. We're going to dock your pay.
Next. Our next on the agenda item is request for a contract with the Institute of Professional Practices for students and with disabilities. And, no, I'm sorry, Joe Gorman. You're up for a request for approval of State of Connecticut purchase service contract for support of pregnant and parenting teens, mothers, fathers, and their families. And I believe you need a consensus on this tonight.
Please. Just to give some quick background on this is the second year of a grant. Originally, it was for $200,000. It was reduced to $75,000 for the second year. Luckily, we did get a little bit of time elapsing before we got traction on this grant in the first year, which allowed us to equip the program for anticipating that there would be less funding available in the second year. So in terms of those supports for kids, in terms of material items, bus passes, so on and so forth, we acquired those last fiscal year, and they will carry us through the end of this program with the reduction from $100,000 to $75,000. Primarily, this will pay for the staffing of the program to continue it. We presently are servicing 43 expectant and/or parenting teens, 36 females, 7 males. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have, but because there were some delays at the state level, the Office of Early Childhood had some difficulty in getting things processed and to us. There have been delays. The program has continued uninterrupted. However, we'd like to kind of restore the fiscal house of that since we're on borrowed time with that. That's why I'm requesting consensus.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Hernandez.
Joe, quite an increase from last year?
Remember that we did not actually begin the program until May. We didn't have staffing until May. So to be perfectly honest with you, I believe that it's been remarkable that we've been able to identify that many students. Some were in the program from 2 years previous when that program sunset. There was a one-year hiatus, and then it came back under Office of Early Childhood. The original program was through the Connecticut State Department of Education. This one is through OEC. Unfortunately, I do have to tell you that Waterbury still leads the state in the rates of teenage pregnancies. Although they are down, and they are down statewide, we do still, unfortunately, lead the state in that category right now, at least the latest data that I've seen.
Commissioner Tom Van Zyl.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're blaming the state. However, this is 2 months into the period we're being asked to approve.
Correct. I believe it was October 7th.
It says October 1st on the information. How we paying the bills and what happens. Actually, it says October 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2010.
There were a few in here that were
Oh, is that
typos.
a 20? Oh,
That should
okay.
be 20, yes.
It's handwritten in 2020. Thank
I
you.
apologize for that.
And it's been a point, Mr. President, that we have brought over and over and over again, that contracts come to us late. So I guess those of us that do have a mean streak, if we voted against this in 2 weeks, what happens? And we just need, I think we've done better. Board, I think we've actually done better since we've noted this. But by the time we vote on this, well, we're going to do a consensus, granted. We're still 2 months into something that, what's recourse? Just on a point, right? What's a recourse? If we say no.
Really, it sounds like there is no
We
recourse
get
at
told
this
that
stage.
we're, affecting the children. We really need to have these come to us in a timely manner. We can't, and I get it, we're going to blame the state. We could blame the state. However, nothing would have stopped us back in September from approving this pending state approval.
Right.
So, just to make a point, again, things brought to us, why?
Duly noted.
Thank
We'll
you.
work on it. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? So we need a consensus. Do we want to do a roll call or?
No, consensus.
Consensus.
You can't vote at a workshop.
All those in favor?
Can't vote.
No, just
show hands.
We just kind of just go
For
like
an aye.
this.
Yes. No, opposed?
Can we do this thing the kids were doing before?
It's cocktail time. Thank you. He has it.
Greatly appreciate your support. And by the way, Commissioner Sweeney and Commissioner Stengel, congratulations on your acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Master Commissioner.
Next on the agenda item is a request for approval for a contract with the Institute of Professional Practices for Students with Disabilities. Ms. Skoronsky. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. We're asking that you approve a contract with the IPP, the Institute for Professional Practice, for placement of a student. There's a 2.5, really 3-year, almost 3-year contract. Commencing January 1st. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
No
Comments, Commissioner?
Elaine, did you say it starts January 1st? Is that what you said?
Yes. It didn't go to bid. I think,
You don't
I
have
think
to.
you exempted it.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda item, Doreen Viola, your October monthly expenditure report, as you so classified as an FYI.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I know this is on here as an FYI. I don't know if you want me to go through any of this, or if anybody has any questions. I'll oblige whatever that you like.
Not for me.
I'm good.
Too early? Good? All right.
We're all
You're a
good.
student at heart.
We know your number if we need it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners.
Two claps for Doreen.
Next on the agenda is
Nice to see you,
Committee
Doreen.
on Building and School Facilities and Committee on Building and School Facilities. Mr. Clark, all set?
Taking off.
Any questions, Commissioner Van Stone?
You merged them both together, so I'm
Well-
going to go to item 12.
Go for whatever you want.
Okay.
I haven't picked on this category in a while. I think it predates you, Will, actually. I used to pick on this every week. However, I do really struggle with Westover School, who probably has more money than everyone in this room combined. And they are paying. However, we are going to map out a calendar for the next 4 months to give them every weekday and Saturdays for the West Side Middle School pool. And I will bring back what I've wanted in the past, is that something like this could go for a separate vote, even if it's just for me to vote no. We do this as a group, right? And to give a non-Waterbury private school, exclusive private school, to lock down one of our pools. And the only stipulation is if West Side Middle School needs the pool, they get bumped. No community group in Waterbury has bumping rights per our own policy. I can't see how we can give them 4 months exclusive, 5 nights a week and Saturdays. So Carrie ran away. I would like to find a way that we remove this somehow from a consent calendar to be able to vote on this, or not consent calendar, but consent vote. I just can't see giving Westover that much time in our city school that all our community groups now cannot take that pool.
Well, can there
It
be
just, we need to look at a way to do
Can
this.
there be a clause in the agreement? that
The only
gives-
clause right now, Mr. President, is West Side Middle School itself, the school itself, and we do this at the high schools, would bump them. If Town Plot Sports wants it, if East Mountain Sports wants it, if PAL wants it, et cetera, they do not have bumping abilities to this permit.
So first come, first serve.
Non-school.
Right.
Non-school. We can't be given this blanket coverage. We just can't. We did this a few years ago with Cheshire. Same thing. And of course, it came to a vote, and I tried to remove it, and we couldn't. And basically, we said, well, then the Cheshire kids can't swim. And my comment was, I don't care. I don't care. Westover should not be able to book the entire winter calendar for this pool. Should not. We should not accept this request. So we need to find a way to exclude this or give bumping rights to Waterbury citizens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments? Commissioner Sweeney?
I would suggest that at this point in time, that this item be split into 12A and 12B.
I would like that.
And then the Westover School would be 12A. And the other two items requesting waivers would be 12B.
Cut them out.
And that, coming before the board, that would, yeah, non-consent because we split it. And it'll be on non-consent.
If I may, thanks, Ann. I think that's a great idea. That way we can vote on it. However, I still think a Waterbury organization, if they come in now with a request, should be able to bump them. That would be the second half.
Yeah, and I don't
Commissioner
disagree. I
Sweeney, to
think-
what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's something to take up under the building committee.
Maybe policy or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Policy enhancement.
Okay,
It falls
thank
under-
you.
That falls under building and facilities. So,
Rocco?
Is Westover paying the city of Waterbury for the use of the pool?
Yes.
Is there a standard rate card for that?
We have a rate that we apply, and essentially we're accommodating their request. You know, it's the season is a schedule. It's something we've done in the past. Review these with Sandy before they come here. And the first question to the commissioner's point is, are there any other needs that we have that anyone else is looking for this and so forth? So there aren't. So they had the request in, they've been there in the past, they are paying. I do think, to the extent there is another community group that comes forward, we have other options, there are some other pools. But at the moment, there isn't a conflict, and so they're coming at us with a schedule. There is availability at the moment. We can accommodate that. I guess to the commissioner's point, if we didn't accommodate their season, they might go somewhere else because they want that to be locked in, of course.
Is there ever a role reversal where we look for an in-kind usage of their facilities?
I'm not aware of one. Something we certainly could pursue, and I think that's, we do have leverage in that regard.
I just want to make sure we're not cutting our own feet off.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Brown?
To add to the discussion, I think the historical perspective, are there community groups that have historically tried to use the pool and have been denied over the years?
Not that I'm aware of with this particular use.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Will. I think that the next item is the superintendent's update to the board. And it's all in our notes. We can read it. Thank you. Next item after that will be the committee of the whole of the strategic planning for the Connecticut Center of School Change.
Good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners, Dr. Ruffin, and Dr. Ruffin's administrative team. We are delighted to be with you this evening. To put this in context, as a reminder, we've been involved in a process since the early summer, which involves trying to develop a long-term strategic plan for Waterbury Public Schools. Conceptually, we can think about the development of this plan in two parts. The first part is a direct engagement of the board and Dr. Ruffin's administrative team in the development of key artifacts that build the foundation of the strategic plan, statement of core values, mission and vision. We worked on the core values first over the summer. We were with you a month ago, during which time we worked on soliciting your ideas for mission and vision statements, and we're with you tonight to bring back to you draft kind of prototype statements based upon your great thinking. I believe it was the 29th of October. It's our hope that we walk out of this evening's meeting with any last feedback and specific adjustments that you want on these, and that then again builds the foundation for the phase 2 part of this work, which will begin in earnest after the winter break, when a steering committee that the administrative team has been putting together that's widely representative of the broader community will begin working on articulating goals, strategies, and metrics for how to pursue the vision, accomplish the mission, deliver on the portrait of the graduate, is another document you've been working on, and live up to the core values. So I'm going to hand it off to my esteemed colleague, Robert Henry, who's going to describe for you what we've done since we were with you a month ago and set the foundation for our conversation on these 2 statements.
Thank you. Good evening again. Good evening. What we are interested in doing is walking you through how we have arrived to the document in front of you at this point. We didn't find much value in going into a dark room and creating mission and vision that did not correlate with the work that you've been doing. And so we have built what you have before you, and we'll walk you through that based on your contributions. And we now will talk about what that looks like. Now, what we did was look for one base mission, vision statement that comes out of the sessions that we had. And then we looked at the other mission, vision statements that were provided to try and ensure that the sentiments described in those other contributions were actually reflected in the base. And so what's important to remember is that the mission and the vision on their own do not describe the district's direction. You have to look at it, obviously, in conjunction with, yes, mission, vision, the core values, the strategic plan, et cetera, so that most folks try to incorporate everything in the vision statement and makes it extremely verbose, unable to be followed, et cetera, et cetera. So if you remember in our sessions, we were looking for concise, that can transmit the sentiment of where you want to go. So if you be kind enough to look at, I think, the 3rd page, I'll describe further how we got there. That's the one that says mission. And in keeping with the fact that we found a base statement, you will see that the base statement is the mission of the Waterbury Public Schools is to inspire and prepare every student to be successful in and beyond school. And that particular mission statement was coined by the small group that Senor Pagano was in fact leading at the time. But in what I said, we went back and looked at all of them and found the correlations, so that if you see from left to right, the team that included Doreen and the other colleagues that were with her, they were interested in discover their potential. That has to do with inspire. The arrow will lead you to where we think that kind of correlation has been met. Janice's team It talks about providing opportunities. That goes into the preparation. All right, so do you follow the process we try to, so that we are working with what you gave us, and now we're making sure that it incorporates everybody's thinking. It doesn't mean that we end here. It does mean, however, that we've captured where you are, where you'd like to go. And I'll take you to the, well, if we stay with the mission, again, the idea is to make certain that it answers those two questions, right? What is our organization's purpose? And that's answered in the top portion. And then the other is, why does our organization exist? So we try to make sure that it answered at least the premise where we started. In terms of the actual vision, which is the following page, we followed a similar method, and the base statement came out of Greg's working team. It was short, concise, to the point, and it talks about all Waterbury Public School students will graduate ready to transform their world. You can see that Doreen's team had the contributing members of society, which is incorporated in transforming the world. Janice's team talked about conquering the future, is transforming the world, and so on and so forth. So that is the basic premise by which we are bringing this back to you, and anticipating, that we can build from that if it is required.
After we built these prototypes, or basically captured these prototypes out of what you built, we did two other, I would say, cerebral tests on them. One of them is we looked at examples of vision and mission statements from a large number of districts across the United States, especially districts that seem to get lifted up as gold standard districts. And we just wanted to do a little bit of a test. How far afield were we? How close were we? And when we looked at those, we saw three basic patterns in both mission and vision statements. There were many districts who just had word salad statements. It was, they crammed every possible phrase and idea, and you could imagine what it looked like, where the people who were in the room decided the mechanism of compromise was to just say and one more thing, and add another thing, and add another comma. The other category, well, there really were three categories. That category, another category where it was thin, I would describe cold oatmeal statements. They said nothing. They might have had few words, but they just had nothing to them. The third category were ones that directly referenced Portrait of the Graduate. So they tried to squeeze their articulation of the Portrait of the Graduate in either their vision or mission. And so that was the first test that we ran, and that made us feel very comfortable with what you'd come up with. The other test we ran was we just kind of had a conversation of how good do we feel about this? So we know that this is theirs, but are we going to feel good coming back to them and saying, yeah, this is good? And in fact, I think we did. And what I would say, and I think it represents Robert Henry's perspective also, is that there's some very simple elegance in both of these statements. That you can boil down these in ways that people can hold on to and you can actually use to leverage work. And I would say mission is, it's a success in and out of, and in and beyond school. Like, that's a powerful, very direct statement. Obviously there's work that would have to be done. What does that really mean, and how do you move that into the system? But that's a rather powerful statement. And ready to transform the world. Elegant, straightforward, simple. And the other piece that you added in both was a tag that meant you're really serious about each and every child in this. And so we bring these to you in hope that to receive any last feedback you want on these, and we're assuming that you might do the same with us, and in some ways so that we can start moving these forward in helping the steering committee do the next phase of the work in moving towards strategies, metrics, and the rest of the body of the strategic plan.
I like them. They're very right to the point, especially from the original verbiage that we were playing tennis with. I remember at one point we had a couple of paragraphs. I like easy things. When I was at ESPN, our mission statement was to serve sports fans, period. I see that in your verbiage here now, so I like them. But the floor is open. Liz, you're looking for...
I was going to see if our student would like to comment on that. Does it resonate with you at all?
Put you on the spot.
As a student, does that...
It's cold call.
You think that's a good mission for us?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Good. Any
think that's-
particular thing pop out? It's okay.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. No, nothing in particular, no.
Good. Thank you. I like it too. I think they're succinct and they leave it up to us to kind of imagine things, transform the world. That sounds, yeah, I like that.
There's clarity. in
Yeah, I
it.
like it. I think we did a good job.
I think
Any
we
other
did.
comments? Questions? Everyone supportive of it?
I like them.
Beautiful. Good job. Thank you. We can now pay them, right?
We done here now?
We're still trying to figure that out.
We're paying for this?
Yes. Those are trivial issues. It can easily be seen.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Before you go, did we finalize the values? I forget.
Yes, I said,
She just okay,
said-
okay. I just
said.
Check your phone.
Okay, I did, okay. Thank you.
I thank you very much. There was one piece of business that came across my text from the mayor. He was asking us to be supportive in the WTA contract, to send a letter of support to the Board of Aldermen since they are meeting before we meet. Is everyone fairly comfortable with that, except for Jason, who's on the road? Charles?
I'm just, obviously then we don't vote on this.
No, this is the Board of
Because
Aldermen
it was
issue.
a, not negotiated, it was a,
Arbitration?
what do you call that thing?
Mediation.
Mediation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just looking for our support to send a letter of support and recommendation up to the Board of Aldermen.
I'm fine with that.
Consensus is?
Go for it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for not killing me on my first meeting. I
did a
appreciate
great
the
job,
support. Thank you.
Adjourn the meeting.
Good job, Chuck.
We need a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? You're nuts. Okay, beautiful.
All right, Rocky. Oh, we-